Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Syncretism Society Virtual Academy. And my name is Mehmet. And in today's presentation slash lesson, we're going to be understanding the basics of energy. Basically, this is lesson one of learning astrology. But I thought that before we go into actually learning what the signs are and what the elements are and what the planets are, I thought it would be suitable to understand the basics of energy and how energy works before we get into that part. So in this first lesson, I just want to concentrate on the basics of energy, like looking at the Torus field, the atom, magnetism, dielectricity, and electricity. And yeah, just getting the fundamental basics of how energy works before we get into looking at the sine wave and each sign in particular and its mode, whether it's cardinal, fixed, or mutable. So the criteria that I will use in all my lessons will be something called the SAM BEST method. And what it is, SAM BEST is an acronym for some words. So SAM is the method and BEST is the model. So in SAM, S is syncretic, meaning syncretism is unifying all fields of knowledge. A is astrological. So all waves and all signs are astrological. They all start in Aries and finish in Pisces. Obviously, some of you may not know what this means, but you'll get to know what we're talking about as the series goes along. The next A in SAM is etymological. Like I said, we're going to talk about the atom, but etymological also corresponds with etymological. So that's about sound and how words work. And M in the SAM stands for the model. When we come to the word best, best is Bonacci, referring to Brother Santos Bonacci, who come up with this model and this concept. E is ecliptic. The ecliptic is the pathway of the sun. S is the sine wave, which is the wave that the sun creates through its yearly and daily cycle, which we'll also get into. And T is for Taurus and the Torus field and toroidal energy. So what I'm going to do before I get into going into detail on my board, I just want to share my screen and I'm going to show you a few slides and we're going to read through a few things just to, like I said, get the basics. And before I go into explaining things into detail, I'll show you the simple stuff and then I'll get into more detail on the board. So if I just share my screen, bear with me for a minute. So I'm just going to share that and make this bigger. So as most of you probably know, this is like a very universal symbol. This is called the Yin-Yang. And it actually comes from the East in China. So Yin-Yang is basically the concept of masculine, feminine, hot, cold. Yeah, all the polarities that are in the world. But the thing is, the yin and yang is not talking about the material world. The yin yang is corresponding to the transcendental world, because there's two yin yangs. There is a black and white yin yang, which is spiritual, and then there's a red and blue yin yang, which is physical. But we're going to go through all that anyway. So if I move on, let me just move this out of the way. It says here, yin, negative, female, night, passive, moon, intuitive, cold and soft. Yang, positive, male, day, active, sun, logical, hot and hard. One thing I want to point out here, this where it says yin is female and yang is masculine is correct, because the word yin is the word yinega in Greek, which means woman. But in relation to the colors, they can also be reversed. But again, as we go through the presentation, I will touch up on that. But this is just to give any beginners like the basic concepts of what yin and yang represents. So moving on, bear with me. So yeah, again, this is just the same, giving you some bullet points of what yin and yang is. So the way energy works and creation in general is that there is black and white light, and when these two lights come together, they create what we know as electricity, or the electromagnetic spectrum, which is the rainbow. But these black and white lights have concepts and modalities. So the black light is cold, yang, dielectricity. Dielectricity means the source, like, and stillness, no movement or no motion, is stillness and rest. Whereas the yin, white, which is hot and magnetic, is motion. So what happens is when stillness and motion come together, they create a hybrid, which is called electricity, which is the 7 colors in the rainbow. So if I move on, yeah, like I said as well earlier, the white and black yin yang creates the red and blue yin yang. And I will show you a picture now how that's possible. So what this is I put my torch, which has obviously a white light, onto a black screen. And when I did that, it created the rainbow. So this is a very simple experiment that you can all do, because like you might give this information to someone, you might say to them, yeah, black light is stillness and white light is motion. And when those two fields rub together, they create electricity, or the electromagnetic spectrum. And someone might say to you, oh, well, how can you prove that? It's very, very easy. All you have to do is turn your telly off, shine a white light on the black screen, and then it will create a rainbow, as you can see here, which is redshift and blueshift energy. Redshift being furthest away from the source, and blueshift being closest to the source. So this is one simple experiment that you can use or show people, that white and black light creates red and blue light. And also another way you can do this is simply just by, if you light this up, I don't think you can see it on your screen, but you can see the top part of the flame is red and the bottom half closest to the source is blue. So that is the same in this picture. You can see that the blue parts of the rainbow are closer to the middle, and the red parts are furthest away from the middle. So moving on, all energy, no matter what it is, whether it's a human, an animal, a plant, we all have an aura, or what is called a torus field, which is energy coming inwards, which is blue. As you can see at the top here, it's got blue shift at the top, and energy going outwards like this, which is red shift. And all forms of material follow this concept. And also this ties into astrology, because this ties into the cycle of the sun and the seasons. So this is why I'm explaining all this. So yeah, like I mentioned just before, energy going in towards the center is blue shift and is turning leftwards, anti-clockwise. And energy coming out is turning rightwards and it's going clockwise. So these are the two concepts of the material world. So these would be hot, cold, whatever. I'm having a brain freeze here. Yeah, like hot, cold, good, evil, etc., etc. This is just showing you the polarity of the material world. So what I'm going to do as well, once I show once I stop sharing my screen and show you my whiteboard, I will get into this more in detail and more in depth. So yeah, like I said, all material matter has an aura, or what you would call a torus field surrounding it. So like I said, it's blue energy going in and red energy coming out. Yeah, again, this picture is showing that with the 7 chakras. The chakras within the body are 7 energy points, where the blue shift at the top is resonating at a higher frequency, so it's going really quick, whereas the red shift energy at the bottom, the wave goes very, very slow. So that's why things are more dense at the bottom. And at the top, they're more fluid, so that because the frequency is going quicker. And also, if you can see around this human, you can see like an aura which has an almost an egg shape. So it's kind of thinner at the top and wider at the bottom. This corresponds with something called the Phi-Ratio, or the Fibonacci sequence, whereas everything in creation, it doesn't double up, like, so it goes 1, 2, it goes 1, and then, so this top half of the egg here would be 1, and this would be 1.618. So the proportion is not double, it's almost double, but it's 1 and then 1.618. And what this concept does is it creates everything in spirals. So again, this bit in the middle would be the blue shift energy, which I showed you, and the energy spiraling out would be the red shift energy. And you can see this in all forms of creation. And also, if you look at this pentagram, this green bit here would be 1, and this would be 1.618. But if you took this whole green and red section and moved it along, it would directly fit in this middle bit and along here. So also you can see that in your finger. So this would be 1, and then this would be 1.618. But if I move this whole thing here, it fits in exactly into that section. This is, like I showed you earlier, within all material things, we have 7 chakras, which is basically the 7 colors of the rainbow. And like I explained before, the redshift energy at the bottom is slow moving. That's why it has 4 petals, whereas the blue shift energy at the top has a higher frequency, which is why it has 144 petals. I will go into this in more detail in coming lessons, but I just don't want to like blow your brains out like by giving you so much information in one lesson. So I'm just giving you like the basics of how energy works. And these 7 chakras, you might think, oh, what's this got to do with astrology? But these 7 chakras correlate with the 7 planets that we see with the physical eye. So yeah, so basically this slide is just showing a comparison. So that's the 7 chakras. And so you can almost say that the chakras of the earth are the 7 luminaries / planets that we see in the sky. Yeah, moving on, again, this is just showing how, like I mentioned, all material matter has an aura / torus field going, energy going in and energy coming out. So it's blue, red, blue, red, blue, red. Again, this is just a picture showing you different forms of that energy. Yeah, and also this is like a ancient Vedic depiction of that energy. As you can see, you have a blue snake and a red snake, and they're going through the body. One is magnetic and one is electric. These are called the Ida and Pingala. Again, this is another beautiful picture of Krishna and Radharani. And again, you see the blue and red, but you also see that they're within each other. Just like when you look at the yin and yang, in the white section, there's a black dot, and in the black section, there's a white dot. So they're just opposites of each other. So after establishing that, I want to explain to you now that how that correlates with the energy on Earth and how the sun works within our Earth. So yeah, this is a transverse model of the Earth. It doesn't really matter, by the way, what your view of where we live is, whether it's a globe, concave, flat. This applies to all of them. So for people that don't know, we have three main things in astrology which are important. So you have, or two main things, but there's two of them and then one here. So you have the equator, which is at 0 degrees, and then you have the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. So the way seasons happen within our Earth is that the sun is traveling up and down just in this section here. So it goes, so when it's in the middle, it's spring, it's the start of spring and the start of autumn. And when it's up here, it's summer in the northern hemisphere. And when the sun is down here, it's winter in the northern hemisphere. And obviously in the southern hemisphere, it's the opposite. So when the sun is up here, it's winter in the southern hemisphere. And when the sun is down here, it's summer in the southern hemisphere. So like I mentioned earlier, all energy going away from the center is redshift, and all energy coming towards the center is blue shift. So what the sun is doing is going up, down, up, down, up, down. And that is just exactly like the breath. So breathing in would be compression, blue shift. Breathing out would be rarefaction, red shift. So yeah, that's just the basic concept of how the seasons are created on the Earth by the sun traveling in between this section and basically creating the seasons. Obviously, because the sun is always in this section, these countries and all the countries in this section are the hottest countries, whereas the countries outside of the tropics have a more cooler condition. Right, so moving on, this is a concave Earth map. And the reason why I'm showing you this is because I want to show you the sine wave, which is the path of the sun throughout the year. So if we start from here, this is, so the line going from here to the top is spring. And then from the Tropic of Cancer going back to the equator is summer. And then from the equator to the Tropic of Capricorn is autumn. And then from autumn, from the Tropic of Capricorn back to the equator is winter. And obviously this cycle just repeats throughout the whole year, but it also repeats throughout the day. So spring would be the morning, summer would correlate with the afternoon, autumn would correlate with the evening, and winter would correlate with the night. And yeah, on a flat Earth model, the way this works is that when the sun is traveling northward, it's compressing, making a small circle, but when it's traveling southward, it's expanding, making a big circle. And as you can see, going upwards, the color is blue, and coming outwards, the color is red. And yeah, also, this is a map of the Earth showing the magnetic field direction. And yeah, going up towards north is blue, and down towards south is red. So that was just like a basics of how energy works. But what the idea is to impose this sine wave of all the 12 signs into the torus field. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my whiteboard and again, just show you in a bit more detail with some color coordination, how that all works. So after going through the basics, through the slides, what I want to now do is I've made some diagrams on the board behind me and a few bullet points. And I just want to add on to what I've already said about red shift and blue shift energy and the torus field. And just also want to show how this doesn't just relate to the earth and relates to our body. And I'm going to show you how the earth and the body are similar. So what I'm going to do now, I'll bring the board closer just so you can see some of the text. So what I'll do, so yeah, just to clarify again, so all energy comes out from the center. So this is a neutral point because you have energy coming into the center and energy coming out from the center. So like I mentioned earlier, energy coming into the center is what we know as blue shift, and energy coming out of the center is what we know as redshift. And also this field is known as a torus field, but it's also known as an atom. And the etymology of atom is, well, alpha privative. When something's got an A in front of it, it takes away the original meaning. So like, for example, if you had the word atheist, it means someone who doesn't believe in God. So in this case, an atom is talking about unity, but breaking it down, the A is talking about the whole unity, but the tom, which means twin, is talking about the two different energies of right and left and red and blue. So making, so going to the main bullet. Oh, sorry, before I go on to that. So yeah, and in the atom, you have the proton, neutron, and electron. So the proton would be the red energy, the neutron would be this dielectric point in the middle, and the electron would be the blue energy. So showing you the main bullet points in regards to blue shift light is rest, left turning, centripetal, gravitation, and acceleration and inertia. So basically what all those things mean is that the light, blue light is going towards the center. It's converging in towards the center. And with redshift, it's motion, right turning, centrifugal, radiation, and force and motion, which is all energy coming outwards from the center. Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier in the slides, blue shift energy resonates at a higher frequency and redshift energy resonates at a lower frequency. So, and I also showed you earlier about how our bodies have chakras. So it's blue at the top and red at the bottom. So if we look at our Earth and we look at above the equator on a map, there is loads and loads of land. But if we look below the equator, we have land. Obviously, we have Australia, we have Antarctica at the bottom, we have South Africa and some of South America. But the land north of the equator is much more abundant than the land south of the equator. So if you look at our body, this is also the same, because below the waist of our body, there isn't much going on really. It's just a foundation. You just have your legs and yeah, that keep you stable. It's more of a foundation, which is the root. But if you look at the waist above, that's where all the action is going on. You have your heart, your lungs, you have all your organs. So this is a very busy part of the body, whereas the lower part of the body is not that busy. So this correlates with the Earth, whereas the north of the equator has loads of land, but south of the equator doesn't. And like I said, you can see this makes sense because the top part with the numbers if the chakras are much higher because they resonate at a higher frequency. So that's just making a comparison of how the earth and the body are just fractals of each other. So yeah, moving on from that, this is like I said, what we know as a torus field or an atom. But in an atom, you have three different modes. So you have a proton, neutron, and electron. So the neutron is obviously the neutral part in the middle, which in the torus field correlates to the plane of inertia, and on Earth correlates to the equator. The proton correlates with the red turning energy coming outwards, and the electron correlates with the blue energy going inwards. So basically, the proton and electron are just two different forms of the neutron doing different things. One is resting and one is moving. So how does this all fit in to how the seasons work and how the sun works and how our universe works? So what I've done here is, you can see this is a torus field. So there's two circles here. Looking at it from this side, with the sun rising upwards and setting downwards, would be looking at it from a northern hemisphere perspective. And looking at it from the sun rising upwards and setting this way is looking at it from a southern hemisphere perspective, because obviously people on the north and the south are on different sides of the equator. So when they see the sun rising, they see it in the opposite direction. Here in the northern hemisphere, we see it from left to right. But in the southern hemisphere, they see it from right to left. So that's just another basic thing I thought I'd show you. But what we're going to do as time goes on is we're going to fill this all out. But I just don't want to cram in too much knowledge at the moment to kind of give you too much to think about. We'll just take it slowly and go bit by bit. So yeah, moving on from that, I just want to talk about some numbers and the gematria in relation to the proton, neutron, and electron. So for some of you that may know, or some of you may not know, there's something called gematria, which is how letters and numbers are related to each other. So for example, the numerical value of the letter A would be 1, and the numerical value of the letter 2 would be B, etc., etc. So in the alphabet, the letters of L relates to blue shift, and the letter of R relates to redshift. Obviously, L being a blue, the L is emphasized in the word blue, and red is obviously starts with an R. And obviously, red, like I said, is to do with motion. So E and O are interchangeable, and D and T are interchangeable. So red could be rot, or the root, or rotation. And obviously, when you look at L, it's left, like I mentioned before, it's left turning light, and it's blue. But like I said, each letter has a numerical value. L is the 12th letter, and R is the 18th letter. So if we look at L and get the digital root of it, a digital root of a number is when you add the two numbers within a number to get a single digit. So 12 would be 1 and 2, which equals 3. And R is the 18th letter, so 1 and 8 equals 9. So if we look at L, like I said, I've put it here. So the electron, I'll move this closer. The electron which L is equals 3, and the proton, which is R, equals 9. And the neutron in the middle, which is the O or the 0 point, would equal 6, because the O is the 15th letter in the alphabet. So you can see also there is a pattern within the words of the proton, neutron, and electron. So this would be the electron, this would be the proton, and this would be the neutron. And it's funny it comes to 369, because Nikola Tesla always says, if you understand the numbers 369, you understand the universe. So it's very, very fitting that the letters of L, O, and R all come to 3, 6, and 9. And also there's 7 letters here. So this correlates with these 7 chakras here and the 7 planets. So blue being up here at the Tropic of Cancer would be the moon, and red being down here at the Tropic of Capricorn would be Saturn, where Saturn rules, because Saturn rules in the sign of Capricorn, and the moon rules in the sign of Cancer. And also O, which would correlate to the sun, being at this point, is very fitting, because obviously this is the equator where the sun rules. So I hope you guys have enjoyed that presentation. Like I said, what we're going to do in the coming weeks is kind of expand on this knowledge and maybe take each section. Like, for example, I'll do a whole video on the chakras and how it relates to each planet and each sign in more detail. And yeah, we're just going to go into a bit more depth of like how the seasons work, and we're going to fill in the signs and whether they're cardinal, fixed, mutable, or fire, air, and earth. But like I said, I just didn't want to cram in too much into the first lesson, because for beginners, I know a lot of this information can be overwhelming. For me, I've been studying it for years, so it's easy for me to talk about, but I have to take in consideration that there'll be some people watching this who will be knowing what I'm talking about, and there'll be others who don't. So I hope you enjoyed this, guys, and yeah, keep in tune, and we'll be having some more videos. So yeah, the next part of this series, we're going to be imposing the sine wave within the Torus field and adding all the signs in there, and we'll just take it bit by bit. So peace, love, and blessings to all. I'm out.